and welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogunyosef. This week, right here in the heart of the Federal Capital Territory, a recruitment exercise was carried out for a period spanning 3 days. It was not any kind of ordinary recruitment exercise meant to deal a blow to the huge unemployment figure in Nigeria. No. It was a recruitment exercise carried out by the Ministry of Health of a foreign government to employ the brightest and best in Nigeria's medical field for hospitals in Saudi Arabia. This comes as resident doctors in the country are on strike over welfare issues and have been taken to court by the federal government over their grievances. The president, Muhammadu Buhari, has asked that matters be resolved out of court, but as we speak, there's yet to be a resolution to the conflict. Nigeria is reported to have 72,000 registered medical doctors. Of this number, only 35,000 is said to be practicing, resulting in a doctor-to-patient ratio of 1 doctor to 2,700 people. Can we really afford to lose our doctors to international recruitments like this? What must be done to stop the brain drain in the medical sector and provide an encouraging environment for the noble profession of medicine to survive and thrive in Nigeria? My guest tonight is Ken Ozoilo, a professor of trauma and general surgery and the president of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria. Professor Ozoilo, welcome to Hard Copy.
Good evening, Maokwe, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, trauma is your area of specialization, and some people will say that this situation is particularly traumatizing. Can you trace for us when the ray began to beat us with regards to brain drain in our medical sector?
Thank you. It hasn't always been, but we must bear in mind that it did not start today either. Brain drain is something that has been going on for a very long time. The last time we had an episode like this, that is Exodus on this magnitude, was during the military dictatorships of the past, when lots of senior Nigerians, I think around 83, 84, that era, a lot of very senior doctors emigrated to Saudi Arabia, you know. But in recent times, it's been going on quietly. All right, but not on this scale. What we have currently is a very massive exodus, which, if not checked, is going to spell doom for the country's health system.
Why are our doctors leaving in droves?
Well, I could go academic and tell you there are push and pull factors. The pull factors are those conditions of service in those foreign lands, which apparently are very, very attractive and therefore luring these, specialists out. There's also the push factor, which is the country's condition of service, the work environment and all that. So it's a combination of these two factors. But the bottom line is the pay, Maokwe. The bottom line is the pay. Because people get offered salaries that are over and above what they're earning here. Okay, 3 to 5 times what they're earning. And then they now meet an environment that is conducive. Many of those countries don't have the population of Nigeria. So if you're working there, the number of patients you're seeing is less. They have more doctors than Nigeria. So that the doctor-to-patient ratio is less than you will have in Nigeria. They have social amenities. Your health insurance package is better. Your other welfare packages, schools for the children, facilities, infrastructure, the equipment you work with. You understand? So the primary driver, Maokwe, is the remuneration. That is the bottom line. And I think that is perhaps an area to start from in the search for a solution. I must also add that in recent times, okay, the wider society, okay, the ills affecting the wider society have also rubbed off on the medical sector. There's a lot of insecurity, okay, and a lot of people flee, not just because of the money, but the added incentive that, look, you'll be somewhere you have peace of mind, okay. And then...
Will they really have peace of mind when you think of the fact that the members of their families will still be here? I'd like to go down a few routes. I mean,
Okay.
because you've mentioned the fact that pay is a big issue, and of course we're supposed to be in a globally competitive society. However, you know, there are questions as to whether or not we can compete when it comes to pay. When you look at what is happening with pay, you know, on a spectrum, across the spectrum, there are people who are supposed to be on the same cadres with doctors, for instance, and you know, if we're to look at what is happening within Nigeria, can we really say that, you know, will our doctors be asking for too much if they were to say, well, would like to earn 3 to 4 times what it is that we earn, because that's what our counterparts elsewhere are receiving, or that's what it would take to make us stay? Would that really be a fair request, so to speak?
I think to understand the issue of pay in the context that you're speaking, you know, you need to look at the way the country operates. Okay. There's a lot of misplacement of priorities. Okay. If you have a sector in which you think there's a crisis, it only makes sense that you would prioritize that sector. Okay? I do not believe that the country cannot afford to compete. I do not believe that. I believe the resources are there, and I believe that if properly deployed, you know, we might begin to plug in some of those gaps. Yes, there are issues, and I honestly believe that is one of the problems why government is not able to address the pay issue. Because the government operates a system that awards salaries. Okay?
Awards?
Yes. What I mean by that is your salary at the end of the day has no bearing on your output. It has no bearing on how many hours you put at work. It has no bearing on what benefits, what deliverables, what achievements you bring in, what advantages you bring into the system.
There are no added incentives.
I'm not saying added incentives. You know, for you to earn even those incentives, you need to prove that you brought in value. And so there's no system of assigning value to, you know, outputs. Okay? All that we know is, look, okay, you're a doctor, you're on grade level this, your salary is grade level. It's so and so. Okay? And anybody on that salary draws the same, anybody on that grade level draws the same salary. And then you have equivalence. Okay? So you have the doctors, you have other health workers. If there's an equivalence at a certain level, whatever you do for this group, you must do for that group. Now, by the time you finish imputing all that, that is when you begin to see that the wage bill, for instance, you know, will begin to look unrealistic. And so you begin to say that you cannot afford it. Okay? We've said time and again that the government needs to address the issue of health system funding. If you address how health is funded, and the best solution, the only workable issue, is that you have mandatory health insurance for everybody. If you have a mandatory health insurance, the private sector will be encouraged to come in. And when they come in with their efficiencies. If somebody is unproductive, the person is let go. As it is right now, it's almost impossible to get rid of a public sector worker. You're stuck with the person, more or less. Even though on paper there are mechanisms for doing that. But the places are washed with people who are not productive, and you cannot do anything about it. I work in a hospital that has more non-health related personnel than health personnel. I'm talking about doctors, nurses, pharmacists, laboratory people, the people that have direct contact with the patients. These are what you consider the factory, the production line, okay, that produces the services. But you have a backup over bloated administration, okay, and so-called support services, you know, that's of questionable value to the system. And so when you look at all this, and all of them have a certain health sector wage parity that they have to enjoy. Okay, this is one of the reasons NAD is still on strike today, if you don't know. Okay, because you have a government that enters into an agreement and does not follow through. Okay, and then at the end of the day, you're not paying people what you promised to pay them, because that's another thing. You understand? If you've agreed that, okay, this is the salary somebody is entitled to. And then you do not actually go ahead to pay. Right now, we have a number of colleagues that have not been paid for 4 to 8 months because of government technicalities. Okay? So when government doesn't do that, then people get frustrated. And one reason why they cannot do it, because you cannot tweak the salary structure of one group without reflecting it in the other group. And when you factor all that, you're looking at a huge wage bill. Okay, and so because when you begin to compare wage structures, it's a dicey thing.
Because I mean, we've taken arguments from government side, and they have said a number of things. For instance, in some states, they argue that the MDs of their hospitals earn the highest. They even earn more than governors, for instance. I mean, that's the argument. That's one argument we've heard. We've also heard that, the training, we must look at the general environment. The cost of living here, for instance, you cannot compare it with, say, a place like, I've never been to Saudi Arabia, I don't know. But in the UK, for instance, I imagine that the cost of living, if you earn, say, £300 or you earn £5,000 a month, the chances that you spend a huge chunk of that on tax, on accommodation, on transport, it's quite high when you compare that to what you do here in Nigeria. Are we looking contextually, for instance, at all of these variables? Just wondering.
I'll tell you, Maokwe. My friends in UK tell me all that you're saying. But the question is this: how many of them have come back? Despite all that, how many of them have come back? The truth is that £1,000 you're able to save at the end of the day is probably more useful to you than any amount you're able to save here. You understand? So it's true that, all these things you've mentioned are here in terms of cost of living and all that. But all said and done, okay, I've told you, when they immigrate, they meet other, there are other added incentives. You understand? There are other added things. I mean, here, it's, you and I know that when you live here, it's like you have to provide everything for yourself. You run a generator by yourself. You provide your own borehole. You have to get a private school for your children. Even if your children get sick, even the same public health system may not be adequate. There are some procedures you can only do in a few select private hospitals in this country. But those are things you take for granted over there. The job comes with these perks and packages. You understand? That's why I say that there's peace of mind. There's more peace of mind.
Would you say that doctors are fair, though? I mean, have they been fair to their fatherland? Let's look at this, because the people who say, if you look at the cost of training doctors here in Nigeria, it's not as high as you get anywhere else. Cost of education, especially tertiary education, has been heavily subsidized. And will it be fair for us to train our doctors with subsidized government money, and then when they're ready and when we should benefit from their services, they're off to other countries because of higher pay? Is that really fair?
I think what you should be asking is, is there anything that you've done for the doctor that you've not done for any other person in terms of training? I mean, every other person is also trained on government expenses. You understand? I mean, government pays the salary of teachers and even the consultants, trainers.
They are not living in droves.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, you've not singled out, there is no special contract you have with the doctor that you do not have with other members of the society. Okay, so it's a function of the system of government that we've chosen to run and of education. Yes, I know in countries like the US and other places, the cost of medical education is actually very high. You understand? Which is not the case here. Okay? But the thing is that you cannot impose any restriction, and including a moral one, like you're trying to advance, on doctors, because they have not taken anything out of the country that anybody else is not getting. You understand? Okay? And at the end of the day, if you cannot impose similar restrictions on other people, why would you, single the doctor out? Okay? Doctors are willing to work, Maokwe. And I don't think it is right to expect them to endure the hardship that they're enduring, okay, if and when they have other alternatives. It is most unfair. I think that the blame rather should go to a government that expends so much expenses or resources to train these people and then refuses to put in place what will keep them. It doesn't make sense.
Let's take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll examine some more of government's response to some of the issues that have been raised so far. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Ken Ozoilo, a professor of trauma and general surgery and the president of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, is our guest tonight. And we're talking about the brain drain in Nigeria's medical sector. Now, once I had a conversation with the Minister of Labor on this particular matter, and his response was that, you know, to the issue of brain drain, that we have surplus doctors, and that when we have surplus, we export. I don't know first if you agree with that statement.
I think that comment by the minister was unfortunate, okay, because everybody knows that we do not have enough, okay. But there's a context in which you could look at it that he might have a point, and the context is that the Nigerian health system does not have the capacity to absorb all the doctors that are being produced. There's still unemployment in the health sector. Our health indices are one of the worst in the world. You know, you reeled out some of them, our doctor-to-patient ratio. But even at that, we do not have enough vacancies to absorb all these doctors. So maybe in that context, but even that would be misguided, okay? Because we have problems emanating from the way we run our system. I'll give you an example. Despite this massive exodus of doctors, okay, from Nigeria, the process of replacing them is bogged down by bureaucracy. If I want to resign my job today, I either give 1 month notice or I pay 1 month salary in lieu of notice. It will take me 1 month or less to disengage. The process of replacing me is something that requires waivers from as high up as the office of the head of service of the Federation. The process of getting that waiver takes anything from 6 to 18 months.
6 to 18 months
yes.
to recruit one doctor.
To replace.
replace.
Recruitment is like a new thing.
Yeah.
You had a vacancy. Somebody has left from that vacancy. To replace that individual takes this amount of time. Okay, so what the result is that you have a system that is awash with unemployed doctors, okay? But the vacancies are there, but you're not able to take them. You know, so yes, you will have a lot of doctors roaming the streets, but that does not translate anywhere by any stretch of the imagination into saying that we have surplus doctors. We do not.
So the capacity to absorb is an issue, but then there are
Yes.
people who say that, okay, even getting doctors to where they're truly needed is also an issue.
Definitely.
It's been, for instance, some states argue that it's been very difficult for them to get doctors to go to rural areas, and they oftentimes they're needed there as well. So when we look at that balance, is it a question of what exactly motivates our doctors to want to be doctors these days? Our motivation is also shifted.
I don't think motivations are shifting, but I think that, you know, when somebody works hard for his income, he's within his rights to aspire to a certain level of comfort. You know, people have a right to decide what they want to do with what they earn. Okay, one of the reasons why the system is not able to absorb what it produces is the fact that states, okay, states have largely abdicated their role, okay, in terms of health services. You find that if you go to any state in this country, the main health institution is the federal tertiary health institution. The states are supposed to provide all the general hospitals around. But most of the time, if you put all the doctors in the state government services together, it's not up to one department of the federal teaching hospital. Now,
that's a big problem.
Yes, it is. It is, because most of, and these teaching hospitals and federal medical centers are in the large cities. The people are in the rural areas. So you need general hospitals to reach them. That's how the system is designed to work. The tertiary hospital is supposed to be a referral center where you take cases where nobody else can manage. So you filter this and send. But right now, even the man in the village, if he's sick, his only hope is to get to the teaching hospital because there's nothing else closer to him. And this falls squarely on the shoulders of the state government, okay? Why is it that they're not able to attract people? It's a very simple issue. Most states do not pay as well as the federal government, okay? And if nothing says that you cannot pay better than the federal government. Do you understand? The brain drain can even be reversed. It can be made internal. Okay, when I finished my training, I was approached by a state that was paying higher than the federal government. And I couldn't get a federal job. And I mean, I just took it. And when I got there, I found a lot of other colleagues, that had been attracted by the same fact that that state was paying even better than the federal. Who says that the local government system cannot employ doctors and nurses and pharmacists and pay them better than the federal? If you pay them better, instead of going to Saudi Arabia, they'll move to those locations. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So do you think the private sector then has the capacity to be able to reverse the trend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you see, you have to empower the private sector to be able to do that. And how do you empower them? There is nothing more frustrating to a business than when you don't know where your money is going to come from. What we operate in this country today is largely out-of-pocket expenses. So if I cite a hospital in a location where the population is quite all right there, the patients are there, the needs are there, but the patient comes in and you're not sure whether he has the capacity to pay or not, no investor is going to take their money into that place. Do you understand? But if you had mandatory health insurance for every citizen, then I know that if I put my hospital in this place with dense population, based on their insurance coverage, I'll be able to recover some of my money. Up till today, Maupe, you cannot drive a car without a third-party insurance in Nigeria. But a whole human being is alive and does not have any form of health insurance. It's an abnormality. So these trends can be reversed if only the right policies are put in place. The health insurance thing is just a matter of law. A simple law that says, look, for you to have any relationship with the state at all, you must have a health insurance. It's as simple as that. It will jack up considerably. But we are surface dressing here and there, you pay a little extra allowance. It's not going to solve the problem. I'm sorry.
So the second part of his response as the Minister of Labour then, 2 years ago, was that in any case, the doctors eventually come back with their wealth of experience and they set up facilities here. I don't know whether you've noticed that trend and, how big a dent it's made on our health needs here.
No. I do not agree with that entirely. You understand? Because you cannot take something that is 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 and use that to, extrapolate. What I'll concede is that their diaspora remittances do increase, okay? Because everybody that is working abroad still has family, just like you alluded to. They have aged parents or brothers or cousins or whatever, and they do remit. They send in money into the country, But it is not true that they all eventually come back. Many of them do not. And not all of them set up, hospitals, like the friends of the minister did. Those are exceptions. They're not the rule. The rule is that they emigrate. Okay, even when one individual goes, if a doctor goes, the next time he's sending for his family or sending for her children and kids, husband and, depending on the dynamics, okay? So usually it's a permanent thing. They immigrate. And in any case, when you spend your productive life working outside and you come here for retirement, will that really be considered coming back home to, So I don't share those sentiments. I think that, yes, remittances, but I don't think those remittances are worth the value that we're losing by having these people live in the country.
On the whole, do you think that government has seen this as a problem and is addressing it as such?
I don't think government has even acknowledged that there's a problem. And for me, that is a bigger problem. I don't think that even the Nigerian public have identified it as a problem. And for me, that is a much bigger problem because the silence about it, the pretense, we're playing the ostrich. It's like this thing is going on and nobody wants to say anything about it. And the truth is that given the bureaucracies and red tapeism of government, it's not going to be possible to solve this problem, except there's a deliberate and focused effort to do so. And that is going to require government putting together a team, In 2014, the past administration commissioned the Yayale Ahmed committee that looked into interprofessional harmony in the country, and they went around the whole world studying health systems and submitted a report. That report has not seen the light of day. Right now, it's something similar we need. You have to interrogate the complexities, the ramifications. What is the root cause of the problem? And then you will be able to come up with workable solutions. That conversation hasn't even started. It's not even been acknowledged that there is a problem. Okay? And I think there are tougher days ahead.
It's a good place to reflect on it. Professor Ken Ozoilo, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much, Maupe. Always my pleasure. That's
our program tonight. You can always send your feedback to the handles showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.